Welcome to Ontario County's presentation of the Lakeshore Drive and New York Route 364 Sidewalk Improvement Project. This is a federally aided local safety project being progressed in partnership with the New York State Department of Transportation. Your input is important to us and is a critical piece of the project development process. You may write, email, or call the county's project manager, Thomas Rafferty, using the contact information displayed on your screen. You can also download a comment sheet from the project website and return it to our attention. Questions, comments, and suggestions will be accepted through Monday, May 25th, 2020. This presentation will start with an overview of the background and purpose of the project. There will then be a discussion of the evaluated alternatives, followed by a detailed look at the proposed design. We'll also give you information on the anticipated schedule, show you how the area will be affected during construction, and provide a breakdown of the estimated construction costs. As the area surrounding Finger Lakes Community College and Constellation Brands Marvin Sands Performing Arts Center has grown, so too has the need to accommodate the traffic generated by these destinations. A study was completed in 2013 by Ontario County identifying potential improvements to the area that would provide safe and accessible facilities that encourage alternative forms of transportation. The 2013 study provided a variety of recommendations for these improvements. This project is part of the continued implementation of these recommendations, which are being designed and constructed as funding becomes available. The project site is located just north of the Community College and Performing Arts Center and south of New York Route 5 and 20. Improvements are proposed along Lakeshore Drive between New York Route 364 and New York Route 5 and 20, and New York Route 364 between Lakeshore Drive and New York Route 5 and 20. These segments fall within the town of Canandaigua, town of Hopewell, and the city of Canandaigua. Lakeshore Drive is maintained by Ontario County. New York Route 364 is maintained by the New York State Department of Transportation. New York 364 is classified as an urban major collector. There is one through lane in each direction with several turn lanes in advance of intersections at Lakeshore Drive, Roseland Park Plaza, and routes 5 and 20. Some pedestrian accommodations do exist at the Route 5 and 20 intersection, although the equipment is antiquated and new pedestrian signals and crosswalks were installed at Lakeshore Drive in 2017. However, the majority of the segment has no facilities for pedestrians. Lakeshore Drive is also classified as an urban major collector with primarily one lane in each direction. The segment between New York Route 364 and routes 5 and 20 is approximately 2,700 feet long with 11-foot travel lanes and shoulder widths vary between 2 feet and 5 feet. New sidewalk was installed on the south side of the road in 2017, but there are no pedestrian accommodations on the north side of the road. At the time of the Ontario County study, minimal accommodations were provided for pedestrians within the project area. No sidewalks were present along Lakeshore Drive or New York Route 364. Pedestrians and cyclists used the narrow and deteriorating roadway shoulders of Lakeshore Drive. And while New York Route 364 provided wider shoulders, pedestrians could catch vehicles by surprise on dark, unlit streets. These conditions are still largely present today. Additionally, the only intersections with signalized pedestrian crossing were located along New York Route 5 and 20. One mid-block crossing was located at the intersection of Marvin Sands Drive and Lakeshore Drive. The project area has several other defining characteristics while also providing additional opportunities for improvement. A number of overhead utilities run along the north side of Lakeshore Drive, while there is underground sewer and water facilities in the area. There are also several concerns in terms of access control and resulting traffic operations at the Lakeshore Drive intersection with Route 364. The driveway entrance at Finger Lakes Pools and Spas is very close to the intersection, which can create a higher risk of accidents, and the Lafayette Restaurant driveway is very wide, again creating a potential for uncontrolled traffic operations into and out of the parking lot. An analysis of available traffic data was performed as part of the planning stage of the project. Vehicular traffic has shown a continual decline in recent years, but large traffic generators such as the Community College and Performing Arts Center continue to draw large amounts of people. The nature of these destinations tend to draw visitors that use alternative modes of transportation, which the existing facilities cannot fully accommodate. Speeds along New York Route 364 average just below the speed limit, while traffic on Lakeshore Drive tends above the speed limit, an average of almost 9 miles an hour. Accident data was reviewed for the past 3 years, showing accident rates below the New York State average for the roads of the same type. Of the accidents that did occur, only one involved a pedestrian. The accident took place at the intersection of New York Route 364 and New York Route 5 and 20, while the pedestrian was within the crosswalk. The pedestrian did sustain injuries, but survived the incident. The first phase of improvements to the project area was completed in 2017 under the Lakeshore Drive and Moran Road Sidewalk Improvement Project. This project installed sidewalk and pedestrian level lighting on both sides of Moran Road and the south side of Lakeshore Drive between New York Route 364 and Routes 5 and 20. Pedestrian signals and facilities were installed at the New York Route 364 and Lakeshore Drive intersection. The intersection was updated to provide ADA-compliant curb ramps with detectable warning units, striped crosswalks, and push-button activated audible pedestrian signals. The project also installed mid-block striped crosswalks with rapid flashing beacons crossing Lakeshore Drive at Moran Road and Marvin Sands Drive. These rapid flashing beacons are activated upon pressing the buttons located at the crossings. When activated, the beacons have alternating flashing lights that alert vehicles to pedestrians using the crossing. Even with the addition of sidewalks and other amenities under the Lakeshore Drive and Moran Road sidewalk project in 2017, the project area is still in need of improvement from a pedestrian perspective. There are large gaps in the sidewalk network within this busy area surrounding the Community College and Performing Arts Center. With the high volume of pedestrian traffic in the area, there is a lack of pedestrian level lighting, and much of the pedestrian infrastructure near Routes 5 and 20 is antiquated and does not meet ADA requirements. The purpose of this project is to improve pedestrian safety and access by expanding the sidewalk network, installing pedestrian level lighting, and providing pedestrian signals at all signalized intersections. Some more detailed objectives are filling the gaps in the existing sidewalk network, updating existing facilities to meet ADA requirements, providing crosswalks and signals where needed, improving safety through pedestrian level lighting, controlling driveway access to limit conflicts with pedestrians, and minimizing impacts to the environment and property owners. With the intent of improving the existing conditions and capitalizing on the success of Lakeshore Moran project in 2017, Ontario County prepared an extensive application for the New York State Department of Transportation Transportation Alternative Program and Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality funding. Due to the county's diligence in completing a comprehensive application, they were awarded $1.81 million in federal funding. The 1.81 million serves as 80% of the total project cost, while Ontario County will provide the remaining 20% of the projected funds. The Transportation Alternative Program funds are made available from the Federal Highway Administration and are allocated by the New York State Department of Transportation. Projects are selected through a competitive solicitation process and evaluated based on established criteria. During the preliminary planning of the project, multiple alternatives were evaluated to determine which best met the project's objectives. The no action or null alternative would involve leaving conditions on the site as is. This alternative would not improve pedestrian safety or access in the area. Alternative 2 calls for the installation of approximately 2,700 linear feet of concrete sidewalk on the north side of Lakeshore Drive and a combined 2,670 linear feet of concrete sidewalk along both sides of New York Route 364. These proposed sidewalks include installing new and updating existing curb ramps to meet ADA requirements and providing pedestrian lighting along all newly installed sidewalk. Pedestrian signals will be installed at all signalized intersections. This alternative combines the use of two sidewalk design techniques to achieve a safe pedestrian experience. These include physically separating the sidewalk from the roadway a minimum of 5 feet or protecting the sidewalk by an obstacle such as a curb. Using these two methods allows this alternative to minimize cost and impacts to neighboring properties while still achieving the level of safety targeted by the project objectives. For these reasons, this design was selected as the preferred alternative. Alternative 3 includes roughly the same work as Alternative 2, including the installation of sidewalk, curb ramps, pedestrian lighting, and pedestrian signals. Alternative 3 sought to provide sidewalk that was horizontally separated from the road for the project's entire length. While this alternate would have the desired improvements to pedestrian safety, the design had the greatest impact to adjacent properties, including right-of-way acquisitions, parking reductions, tree removals, and drainage ditch relocations. These impacts were too great for it to be reasonably considered. In locations where these impacts were minimal or not present, this alternative was incorporated into the proposed design due to its low cost of construction while still meeting the project objectives. Alternative 4 again includes roughly the same work as the other design alternatives. Sidewalk under Alternative 4 would be adjacent to the roadway but protected by the curb. The advantage of this alternative is that it minimizes impact to the surrounding area. Small right-of-way acquisitions would still be required, but the existing function and character of these areas could be preserved. Impacts to trees, landscaping, and drainage ditches are also minimized. While seemingly the most desired alternative, the additional cost of installing vertically separated sidewalk for the entire project length is prohibitive. The additional cost of curb installation, pavement widening, and closed drainage systems are a large percentage of this alternative. Vertical separation through curb was utilized in the preferred design in locations where there is limited right-of-way available or impacts to existing features needed to be avoided. After an evaluation of the alternatives, it was clear that the best option was the mixed treatment approach of Alternative 2. The proposed work will tie into the previously installed improvements and complete the sidewalk network in the area. Let's take a more detailed look at the chosen design alternative. An 8-foot sidewalk is proposed for both sides of New York Route 364 and will be separated from the street by a grass buffer. The grass buffer will vary between 8 feet to 16 feet wide on the west side of the street and typically be 5 feet wide on the east side. Pedestrian level lighting will be installed along the full length of sidewalk on both sides. as shown in the video. In order to achieve the 5-foot grass buffer, the project will reduce the northbound shoulder width of New York Route 364 from 9 feet to 5 feet. Since parking is already prohibited along this segment, the existing wide shoulder only serves as a pull-off area for disabled vehicles. A 5-foot shoulder width is recommended by the New York State Highway Design Manual to accommodate bicycles. This reduction is required to minimize the need for right-of-way acquisitions and reduce impacts to existing drainage ditches. 2. Right-of-way acquisitions will still be required from properties that make up the Roseland Center Plaza. Pedestrian signals will be installed at the Roseland Center entrance to aid pedestrians in the safe crossing of the driveway. Pedestrian signals will also be installed at the intersection of New York Route 364 and New York Route 5 and 20 to accommodate pedestrians crossing east-west across the southern leg of the intersection. Similar to New York Route 364, an 8-foot wide sidewalk will be installed with a grass buffer along the north side of Lakeshore Drive between New York Route 364 and Moran Road. The sidewalk will continue through private driveways, and the driveways will be repaired to minimize abrupt changes in slope. Pedestrian level lighting will be installed along the full segment length, as shown in the video. Near the intersection of New York Route 364 and Lakeshore Drive, 2 reductions to driveway access are proposed. The first consists of eliminating the driveway of the corner property, home to Finger Lake Pools and Spas, along Lakeshore Drive. This is required due to the physical limitations of the site and the necessity for the sidewalk to meet the requirements established by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Access to the parking lot will still be available from New York Route 364, and there will be no reduction in available parking. The second reduction will be at the adjacent property of Lafayette Restaurant. Currently, the parking lot has no physical barriers or separation from the roadway. This provides a very long stretch where vehicles could potentially either exit or enter the lot unexpectedly. Access to the parking lot will be reduced to 2 34-foot wide driveways. The parking lot will be separated from the roadway by concrete sidewalk, protected on both sides by concrete curb. For the segment of Lakeshore Drive between Moran Road and New York Route 5 and 20, physical constraints and limited right-of-way availability prohibit the sidewalk from achieving the horizontal separation necessary to improve safety. To achieve the level of safety targeted by this project, sidewalk will require the installation of granite curb and a reduction of the proposed sidewalk width to 7 feet. The installation of curb will require a widening of the roadway shoulder from 3 feet to 5 feet to meet the recommendations established by the New York Highway Design Manual. Additionally, the existing closed storm sewer system will need to be extended to include the newly curbed area. Pedestrian level lighting improvements will continue along this full segment, as seen in the video. A pedestrian signal will be installed at the intersection of Lakeshore Drive and New York Route 5 and 20 to accommodate pedestrians crossing Lakeshore Drive. No new pedestrian signal will be installed crossing New York 5 and 20, and those attempting to do so will need to use the existing signal and crosswalk on the southeast side of the intersection. The property acquired will total approximately 1/20th of an acre. The acquisitions are necessary for the installation and future maintenance of the sidewalk. Ontario County has begun to personally reach out to affected property owners, and they should expect to be contacted by the county's real estate experts in the coming months. All acquisitions will follow the provisions of the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Act of 1970 to ensure compliance with federal law and fair compensation. In addition to the permanent acquisitions, a grading release will be required at the Campus Gate property on Lakeshore Drive. A grading release will allow work to be performed on private property for the betterment of personal property for work that is not strictly necessary for the completion of the project. Work proposed under the grading release will include the regrading of driveway entrances to avoid abrupt changes in pavement slope. We will now take a few moments to discuss the project schedule, traffic impacts, and construction costs. The preliminary design began in late 2019. The most up-to-date public documents have been made available online for review and comment. After all comments have been received and addressed, Ontario County will begin development of detailed plans and specifications in the summer of 2020. Construction is anticipated to begin in April 2021. Items critical to maintaining this schedule include completion of the property acquisition process, obtaining necessary approvals from the New York State Department of Transportation, and the completion of private utility relocations. These activities are expected to be completed in early 2021, ahead of construction. Construction will require temporary lane and shoulder closures. A minimum of a one-lane travel lane will be available at all times with alternating traffic. Two-way traffic will be restored at the end of each workday. Sidewalk closures may persist for multiple days to allow concrete to cure. On days when the community college or performing arts center will be hosting events, construction will shut down early to avoid impeding event traffic or generating additional hazards. The estimated construction cost is $1.88 million. The project is funded with 80% federal dollars and 20% county dollars. The construction cost estimate will be continually refined as the project moves from the preliminary design phase into the detailed design and ultimately to contractor bidding. Let's quickly review the ways to provide feedback. Your feedback is important to us. You may write, email, or call the county's project manager, Thomas Rafferty, using the contact information displayed on your screen. You can also download a comment sheet from the project website and return it to our attention. Questions, comments, and suggestions will be accepted through Monday, May 25, 2020. Thank you for your interest in the Lakeshore Drive and New York Route 364 Sidewalk Improvement Project.